Hello, I'm Madeline, and today I'll be doing an economic analysis on certain situations regarding the imposition of taxes, generative AI, and behavioral economics. So these will be some of the topics that I'm going to be talking about today. Firstly, the imposition of consumption taxes. So as we can see, diagram 1 shows the consumer and producer surplus before the imposition of taxes, while this one, diagram 2, shows the consumer and producer surplus after the imposition of consumption tax. As we can see, this blue triangle here shows the consumer surplus, and this purple triangle here shows the producer surplus. We can see that after the imposition of consumption taxes, both the blue and purple triangle became smaller. This is because their producer and consumer surplus has decreased as they are receiving lower welfare. This is because producers receive a lower price at P5 and consumer needs to pay a higher price at P4 for the objects that they buy. So if you may ask, why does this happen? How are producers receiving less revenue while consumer pays a higher price? This is where government comes in. As we can see this green triangle, government takes up the tax revenue. And due to the tax imposition, that weight loss occurs as the market is not working at its most efficient level. So as we can see on this small pink triangle over here, that's the dead weight loss. Now I'm going to be talking about the effects of tariffs to imports. As we can see here, diagram 3 shows imports before tariffs, and diagram 4 shows imports after tariffs. This blue and yellow triangle shows the consumer surpluses, and the purple and orange triangle shows the producer surpluses. As we can see, the blue triangle is smaller than the yellow triangle. This is because there's a decrease in consumer surplus, because the consumer used to pay at PW over here, whilst now they are required to pay at PT. That means that their goods are getting more expensive, so reduce in consumer welfare. However, this you can see that the purple triangle is smaller than the orange triangle. This is because the producer surplus has increased, as domestic producers will be able to sell at a higher price at PT than here, PW. Hence, domestic producer surplus will be higher. The tax revenue received by the government can be seen in this green box over here, and as the imposition of tariffs, the market become not working at its most efficient level, so that weight loss incurs at these two pink triangles over here. Now, for the difference of that weight loss, this first diagram is the diagram after the imposition of consumption taxes, whilst this diagram is after the imposition of tariffs. So for the dead weight loss, we can't really identify which one is bigger, although in the picture we can see that there's difference in the dead weight losses. But in reality, it depends on how much tax is imposed in each situation. Now I'm going to be talking about the generative AI and inequality. So as we can see, scenario 1 shows generative AI reduces inequality. So initially, the labor market for low-skilled workers is at point A over here, and the quantity of low-skilled workers is at Q1, and the wage is at W1. Now, we assume that low-skilled workers are able to make use of generative AI to increase productivity. This will result to demand for low-skilled workers to increase from DL1 to DL2 over here. Now, the equilibrium will move to point B, and the quantity of workers will be at Q2, and the wage will be at W2. This reduces the inequality, as the low-skilled workers will receive a higher wage. Now, for the second scenario, it's generative AI increases inequality. So, in the event that low-skilled workers are unable to utilize generative AI to boost productivity, as shown in diagram 6A, the demand for low-skilled workers will fall from DL1 to DL2, as employers will most likely look for employees that are able to use AI. That's why the DL1 shifts to DL2. And the equilibrium point will move from point A to point B over here, and their quantity will decrease to Q2, and they will receive a lower wage, as the W1 falls to W2. Now, on to event that high-skilled workers are able to utilize generative AI to boost productivity, as shown in diagram 6B, the demand for high-skilled workers will rise as employees will look for them to boost the efficiency of their firm. So DH1 will shift to DH2, as we've seen over here. And the equilibrium point will now move from point A to point B. And the high-skilled workers will receive a higher wage at W4. So for the changes of inequality, in the beginning, it was just from W1 over here to W3. But after the after low-skilled workers are unable to utilize AI and high-skilled workers are able to utilize AI, it has changed from W2 to W4. As you can see, the gap here to here, here to here. So it's getting larger, which means that inequality is increasing, and that's not good. Next, influence of generative AI. So for scenario 1, I'll be talking about how generative AI boosts productivity. So as we can see, initially the macroequilibrium is at point A over here, where the output is at Y star, and the price level is at P1. Now let's assume that the firm believes that generative AI boosts productivity. Hence, they will invest in generative AI, and since investment increases, AD increases, shifting 81, as we can see here, to 82, over here. It turns out that generative AI did indeed boost productivity, shifting SRAS1 over here to SRAS2 over here. Since the productivity and output will permanently be on a higher level, LRAS1 here will shift to LRAS2 here. Then the macroequilibrium will now be at point B over here in the long run, where the output level has increased from Y star to Y1 star, and the price level remains unchanged over here. Now for the second scenario, I'll be talking about how generative AI leaves productivity unchanged. So based on the previous analysis that the firms have invested in generative AI, 81 shifts to 82 over here. It turns out that generative AI leaves productivity unchanged, and SRAS1 will remain unchanged for now. So in the short run, the macroequilibrium moves from point A over here to point B, where the output increases from Y star to Y1 star, and the price increase from P1 to P2. However, due to inflationary pressures, the cost of production rises. Since input prices increases, SRAS1 will shift to SRAS2. Consequently, then the macroequilibrium will now move from point B over here to point C. And the output will be reverted back from Y1 star to Y star over here, and the price will increase to P3. However, in the recent environment where AI is continuously improving, scenario 1 over here is more likely to happen, as firms will most likely have trained their employees in a manner in which they are able to utilize the help of generative AI to boost the productivity of their firm. Lastly, I'm going to be talking about behavioral economics. So, firstly, I'm going to start with a question. Why does everyone always eat unhealthy food when they clearly know that it's bad for their health? This, as we can see on the picture over here, there's a huge queue for the McDonald's. I personally also have never seen the McDonald's in SG not crowded. There's always like so many people eating it. So, usually, people are assumed to be rational under the concept of normal economics. But in reality, people are not always rational. Under the behavioral economics, it is assumed that people are mostly irrational. And back to my question, there are two possible reasons, based on behavioral economics, on why people still consume fast food even though they know it's bad for their health. Firstly, it's the framing effect. It occurs when people change their answer or action based on how a question is framed or asked. For example, sellers of fast food tends to market the positive effects of their product, which is lesser waiting time, while downplaying their negative effects, which is unhealthiness of the product. The second possibility is due to status quo bias. This exists when people aren't willing to change their current decisions, even if a change is preferred. So, for example, people continue to buy fast food because it is fast and saves time, despite knowing the fact that if they continue to eat it, it may lead to premature death. However, if they spend more time eating healthier food, it will lead to a healthier lifestyle. Okay, that's it for my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time. Bye!